हेलो। सर अब ये भी नहीं है, एकदम सड़ा हुआ कंप्यूटर है। हेलो। क्या हो गया? हाँ। Uh, I guess it's already 7-9, and 2-3 people have joined. So I feel that we can start the session. Let me check the some settings. Yeah, everything is fine. I think. Guess. Okay. So yeah. So what I was thinking that okay, how many more people can join in between? So I hope you guys have gone through the different lectures which have been uploaded on the NPTEL website. So that will also help you to grab the concept of EIA. So basically, when we talk of EIA is not only a thing, not only a tool. It gives policy makers also the choice to make a decision. Okay, so these type of tools are not only important for giving or evaluating the project's impacts or something, or finding mitigation strategy. It also in the fact give the decision makers a tool to make informed decision, pre-informed decision, like these are the impact, these can be something which can be uh, mitigated, or maybe these things can be adapted in future, these things has to be monitored. So a lot of things is there. The stakeholders participation is also there, the company which is building the project, not only the company which is building the project, but also different see. Okay. Yeah, many people have joined already, so yeah, it's better we start discussing the concepts here. So basically, what I was talking about is that EIA is not only a tool in the hand of different technicians or engineers or someone who is actually working in the field of environment impact, but also it gives the decision makers more clarity about whatever the project is. It is going to be harmful for the environment. Is the benefits are actually in proportionate to the harm which is done to the environment, what can be the different mitigation measure that can be done to reduce the harm that is being caused. Okay, another thing is that when we talk of EIA, so there are actually different roles that are played by different agencies at various level, like state government plays a role, central government also plays a role, ministry departments are there, also people participation is there. Now, when you talk of EIA, so how does this course EIA is actually helping you guys? So basically, there are various guidelines. We will talk about some of them in our recent interaction session, which is today. Some of them will be actually, that these are not a guideline that is developed in one time or a single time frame. It has got a spread time frame. uh, yeah, good evening, Medono. So, have you gone through the slides, lectures? Uh, I will suggest all you guys to please go through the lectures. Those are very good lectures, and actually, those can help you guys to grab the concept. The professor had taught so beautifully this EIA thing that it will really help you guys to make a good environmental consultant or analyst or something. Okay, so I think it's already 7:13, and I should start the session because this can be a big session. Also, I want to wrap it in the given time frame also. So in between, if you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat box as usual, and I will be always available to answer your question. If some of the questions which need discussion, then we will have the discussion, and also make sure that discuss the concepts among yourselves also. But I want that these concepts are not only too limited between a teacher and student interaction or student interaction. This has to be, some of the concepts can be more developed, more elaborated, more broadly understood when you talk among yours also. Okay. So before wasting any time, I think we can start the session. Thank you. So let me share my screen. sharing my screen. Let me check if recording everything is fine. Yeah, everything is fine. Okay. So what I will do, I will share my entire screen and then I will share my presentation. Okay, so I guess my screen is visible and my voice is audible to all. So if there are any problem, please feel free to put it in the chat box. Okay. So once again, welcome you all to this live NPTEL session 5 of being conducted on 27th of February 2024. This course is Environmental Impact Assessment being taught by Professors Harshit Sohan Lakra. She is Assistant Professor in Department of Architecture and Planning, IIT Roorkee. I am Rohit. I am a PMRF scholar at IIT Bombay and I am your teaching assistant for this course, a live session interaction teaching assistant. Okay. Now, the teaching methodology which we follow in all our interaction session is very similar to what we have followed earlier. So we'll have discussion on the topics that are talked in weekly lectures. We will discuss some of the important concepts also that I think is to be discussed in this live session. Apart from that, we will have a doubts clearing session also. So whatever doubts you have, you can ask me in this session also, or you can always post it in the chat box. I will have interaction with you guys, so you guys can have whatever questions you want, apart from anything apart from this course also. If you want some clarity regarding something, so we can discuss on that also. If something is very much relevant to this course, okay. Then we have two options like use the chat box to put your questions in between if I am teaching, or otherwise you can raise your hand and ask the question. Then you have the discussion forum also. So if you put your questions in the discussion forum, that will actually benefit a whole lot of students through your questions. So if your question is really important, I suggest you ask a discussion forum. Apart from that, anything you want to ask, most of the questions will be addressed in this session only. If something that needs a more clarity of concepts, then it will be taken in the next session also. Some more relevant facts and some more studied material. Okay. Apart from that, I always suggest you guys to read some extra materials about environmental impact assessment. It's a beautiful tool, very beautiful tool, and it will skill you guys to do environmental impacts assessments, which are very much important for all the projects. Now you will see more and more projects will come under the ambit of environmental impact assessment. Now going to the first question. So our first question is EQUIC-CON guidelines SCBD 2024 deals with. So these EQUIC-CON guidelines were basically a guidelines to preserve cultural or different environmental or social impact. So option A is correct here. It's not about language impact or economic impact assessment. So if you see, let me take pen here. So this is the correct answer. We'll learn more about this Equicon guidelines in the upcoming slides. I put very beautiful slides for this explaining this whole concept of Equicon guidelines. So for this, the correct answer is cultural, environmental, and social impact. Okay. Now, what consists of Equicon guidelines? Really, what is Equicon guidelines? So EquiCon guidelines are basically voluntary guidelines. So what basically constitute of a voluntary guidelines? Is it enforceable or is it non-enforceable, or is it that we have to follow, or is it not we have to follow? So yeah, voluntary guidelines are those guidelines that has to be followed voluntarily. Okay, it is not someone is enforcing it on you. So like if I give an example, okay, so let's say we have in India, we have footpaths. So generally it is expected government give guidelines that you have to walk on footpath, not on road. But people generally follow, some of the people follow walking on the footpath, but some of them follow walk on the road also. So it is basically voluntarily guidelines, okay, voluntary guidelines. Government is not forcing it, like they are not going to fine you for walking on the road and not walking on the footpath, okay. But yeah, there are guidelines that you, if you have to cross the road, then you have to use the zebra crossing, okay. So something like that. And if you say non-voluntary guidelines, like wearing a helmet is compulsory guideline. Non-voluntary, you have to wear it when you drive it on a highway. When you drive a motor vehicle on the highway, okay. Now, if you see the EquiCon guidelines, so EquiCon guidelines are basically voluntary guidelines for the conduct of cultural, environmental, social impact assessment. See the terms. Okay, first is cultural, second is environmental, and third is social impact assessment regarding development proposed to take place on which are likely to impact sacred sites. Okay, so not all of the cultural, environmental, social impact assessment, only those development that are proposed to take on impact on sacred site like religious sites and on lands and water traditionally occupied by indigenous local community. So something which has sacred values or something which is very much related with indigenous or local communities. So there are various beliefs also, like, so yeah, that has to be protected. So anything, any development which you are going to do in some sacred area, then you have to follow these guidelines, okay. So that is why these guidelines have actually been in place, okay. Now, so now if we basically I've taken it the summary of table, like various it says about the traditional local knowledge in land use planning, insights into the use of equicoordinate guidelines in, and I know that Finnish SPAMI. Okay, so yeah, this is actually basically the usage of these equicoordinate guidelines for traditional and local knowledge in land use planning. So yeah, this you can go through this table or this paper and you get a good idea about how equicoordinate guidelines are basically used. Now, I think, yeah, it's okay. Now, second question is state true or false. So basically, you have to state whether this statement is actually true or false. So a statement is Garibaldi and Turner proposed the concept of cultural keystone species. Okay, Garibaldi and Turner proposed the concept of cultural keystone species. So before you proceed to answering this question, the first thing is that you need to know the concept of cultural keystone species. What is a keystone species? What is a cultural keystone species? Okay, so that is what you need to understand. If you can understand about things, yeah, basically this is a true statement. Garibaldi and Turner has actually proposed the concept of cultural keystone species, but what does constitute the cultural keystone species? So basically, keystone species are those species that are very much like put everything in place. You cannot remove that species from, like uh, if I give an example, a keystone of a keystone species, like if you are in a forest or a grassland, you cannot remove the carnivores like cheetah or leopard from the grassland. So what it will happen if you remove them? Then the population of deer will grow. Okay, so population of deer will grow, then they will eat more grasses. So within a few years or a decade, those all grasses will be gone because you have removed a keystone species from that food chain or something, okay. Now what is cultural keystone species? So cultural keystone species is something which has got some cultural value, so people associate them with some of their cultural beliefs or something, okay. They take them into this culture. So India also has a lot of cultural keystone species. Apart from that, basically when you talk of keystone species, not only, so you got in mind that culture, sorry, a cultural keystone species is someone which has basically animal or, so no, this is not a correct statement. a cultural keystone species can also be a plant. So I will give you some examples also, where you will see that plants are also the cultural keystone species actually. So yeah, this is actually a true statement. Garibaldi and Turner in 2004 proposed the concept of cultural keystone species. Now, basically, what is a keystone species? So, cultural keystone. So, culturally salient species, that is important species that shape in a major way cultural identity of a people. Their importance is reflected in the fundamental role these species play in diet, materials, medicine, or spiritual practices. Okay, so not only spiritual practices, like in India, we revered many animals. And they are actually associated with our gods, goddesses. Okay, so similarly, some of these species play important role in diet, like some like in the jungle, people go for hunting of deer, warthog. Okay, similar. Okay, some medicinal plants, like if I say one of the medicinal plants that are very much relevant culturally, tulsi plant. Okay, so yeah, the here gives the example of cultural keystone species like elephant, apex predator, disease vectors. Then there is dominant species also, antelope, thorn trees, ants. Then there are common species, weedy grasses, forest ferns, flies. Then there are rare species like fungi, spring flowers, and butterflies. Okay. Now, one of the example which I have put it here from to understand a cultural keystone species is a Borneo's bearded pig. Okay, it's a very significant. So I was talking in the last slide about diet. Okay, diet or something. We could see that this Borneo bearded pig, gardener of forest and protector of their inhabitants, are actually very much relevant as a diet for some tribal groups in Borneo. So bearded bear hunting, a millennial practice in it's a very they charm this practice of hunting a bearded boar. Okay, Charles. So okay, so you can see tribal man here in the jungle itself, and they with a spear and a Borneo bearded pig on his shoulders. You can see this must be some relevant to them actually culturally. So they must be hunting it for celebration or for eating or for a group diet plan. Sorry, for a group food plan or something. Okay. Now another species, a cultural keystone species is white pine. So earlier we were saying about animal like fauna. Now we will talk about the flora also, which is also can be a cultural keystone species. So in cultural keystone species, white pine. So basically, cultural keystone species, white pine is a cultural keystone species for Kitsisaki Algonquin community in Quebec. And you know where is Quebec? Quebec is in Canada basically. Even the importance of this can be justified from the fact that they are very much prevalent in legends and myths that are central to the cultural history and identity of Kitsisaki. The tree is said to offer protection to the people because of its large size. So you can see it can be very large. Okay, uh, very high, some 100 to 200 feet from the ground itself. Okay, because of large size, mature provides a home to bald eagles, sacred species for Algonquin societies. Parts of the trees are also used material goods and medicines, and the species considered to be irrepressible by Kitsisaki, who rely on the services of the white pine offers to both human and the environment. So you can see how much the importance or relevance of this white pine in this Kitsisaki Algonquin community. Okay. Now, which among these had not entrenched HIA as a part of ESIA process? Okay. So, first thing is that you need to know what is HIA. Okay, ESIA Environment Social Impact Assessment. HIA is Health Impact Assessment. Okay, So basically, on similar lines, I've gone through going through different materials. So what I suggest that you guys also should read some extra materials, so that will make you give a broad understanding of the concept of EIA. This is not a very narrow concept, EIA. It's a very big concept which actually has a total sequence of path, like screening, sorting, reporting, stakeholder meeting, everything is there. So HIA is basically health impact assessment, where we see the health impacts of any project on the populace or something. Okay, not only animals, everything. So basically the answer for this question is India. India has not entrenched the HIA as a part of ESIA process as of yet. Okay, so the correct answer is answer C. Now I was going through this health impact assessment term. So I went to United Nations website, and they have actually beautifully explained this concept of health impact assessment. Okay, so what I suggest you guys, you guys should also go and read actually health impact, not United Nations World Health Organization. Okay, you can go to their site and see basically the different concepts of this health impact assessment and how it is actually carried out, and what are the different terminologies which are in their health impact assessment. So basically, if we see the health impact assessment, so health impact assessment is a practical approach used to judge the potential health effects of a policy, program, or project on a population. So there has to be some policy, program, or project whose effect is to be judged on a population, particularly on the vulnerable or disadvantaged group. So vulnerable and disadvantaged group, those people who lives in jungle, they are very much dependent on the jungle. So if you go to give like some project, they are in the jungle, so they like a power plant, so that can impact their health also. They have to move out, they have to uh, get displayed or something. Okay, so these things are actually very much has to be cared when you propose a project to a vulnerable or disadvantaged group. So basically this HIA actually provides a recommendation for decision makers and stakeholders with aim of maximizing the potential positive effects and minimizing the negative effects. So if you have any project, like let's say you are going to put a industry there, so there will be some smoke coming out, particulates from the chimney. So those particulates can cause asthma to the local population in that area, so we have to minimize that. So how can we do that? So we can propose that key to mitigate it, you can put a ESP, electrostatic precipitator, or wet scrubber type of thing. Okay, a fabric filter, similar types of things can be used. Okay, the approach can be applied in diverse economic sectors, use quantitative, qualitative, and participatory techniques. So I won't go much detail because a lot of things is actually written here. I want you guys to first understand basically what HIA is. And HIA also has actually can be a very good thing also. Like we get to know not only some project has a negative health impact, some also can have positive health impacts also. Like if you have a composting plant, so composting plant can give you compost, so that will actually enrich as a soil conditioner and boost the crops nutrient or something, so that will actually have a good positive health impact, so that can also be there. So that has to be identified and properly utilized, so with informed decision making. Okay, so going to the next slide. So you can see a whole lot of steps. Actually, most of the steps are very much overlapping with the steps which are carried out in HIA. So it's basically a impact assessment. So basically, what you do a screening where there are some specific question like who should carry out screening, how to carry out the screening, and then actions like contact stakeholder and decision makers, identify resources. So then it's to scoping where you choose the boundaries of the like this is the area on which I will do the health impact assessment. This the input raw material, the output products, or impacts are to be evaluated. Then there will be appraisal, then there will be reporting, and there will be monitoring. So India basically everything is there in India. If you see the first EIA was actually not the first EIA. The EIA concept were basically basic guidelines for EIA concept was actually through NEPA Act 1970. But you see, India also adopted the EIA concept very soon in 90s. The main thing which India lacks is monitoring. So monitoring is actually very important. If you have some project and you do EIA and everything, but you don't monitor the impacts, so that is actually a very bad thing to do. So what happens that ki you evaluated the impacts, like there will be some air pollution, and you say that ki use this is the standard limit of 100 gram per nanometer cube for normal meter cube, then you put a electrostatic precipitator, and you don't monitor that whether the electrostatic precipitator thing which is installed is actually keeping the particulates within the limit or not or something. So that will give us a feedback also, like what can be improved in the EIA system. So monitoring, that's why very much important when you do EIA, HIA, everything. Okay. Now there are other stages like similarly in as EIA, like uh, also based on the screening there can be three decisions, like HIA is needed, health impact assessment is needed. HIA is not needed as the effects are already known. So basically there is an industry in your vicinity, then another industry of similar nature is coming down. So you know the effects already. So HIA is not needed. You can similarly on the based of previous HIA you can suggest that these must be the mitigation measure you have to follow them. Okay. HIA is not needed as the effects are negligible. If effects are not so significant, then HIA is not to be conducted. Okay. Second step is planning of HIA. So scoping comes here, major stakeholders, everything is being considered. Then appraisal is core of HIA activity. All the data are gathered, analyzed, affected population are identified, health impacts are assessment. So that all come into appraisal. Basically, the result portion of impact. So how much is the impact, everything. Okay. Then we have reporting. So everything is that you need to prepare a report. Then you put it in front of various authorities and stakeholders. Okay, then we have monitoring. It is the final step. So I talked about it in the previous slide. Okay, so monitoring basically is the implementation of the proposal is critical to ensure that any recommendation that decision makers agree to actually occur. So if they say that decision makers say that there is a lot of pollution, so lower down your flue gas flow rate to the outer atmosphere. So whether those decisions which have been taken is actually implemented or not, so this actually requires a monitoring. And basically, what happens in case of health impact assessment, you have to monitor for a long time because health impacts are not soon. Some of the health impacts like cough, cold can be seen in a very short duration, but long-term health impact like cancer, tumor, something of that much higher critical nature can be seen over a long span of 10 years, 20 years, and to get it identified from a sample population that yeah, this health impact is basically observed because of the water problem or air problem or because of this industry. Okay, then not only this HIA is one of the tools, there are other tools like risk assessment and cost benefit analysis also. So yeah, there are other tools also. HIA is also one of the tools. Like through HIA, you can identify the impact. Like you say, like carbon dioxide. So there is a carbon dioxide of 1,000 gram per now normal meter cube. Let's say because of the electricity production, 1,000 gram per normal meter cube. Now you need to know that how much of this carbon dioxide is actually harmful. So if say you do a risk benefit assessment for that, so you observe the different levels of carbon dioxide that cause a minimum level that cause a significant effect on the human health or something. So you evaluate that, like you evaluated at 900 grams per normal meter cube of carbon dioxide is actually very much dangerous to human. You cannot go beyond that. Otherwise, your emission less than 900, then it's okay, no problem to do anything. Okay, so this is where risk assessment, cost and benefits of this project. Generally, cost benefits are done for the infrastructure projects very much. Then we have the question number 4. Question 4. Yeah, there was. Okay. So, so do this question actually. Do this question. I will give you 2 minutes to do this question. Then let's see. Let's see if there are any questions from the student itself. No questions? Okay, so no problem. So if you have any question, please feel free to ask. Okay, don't hesitate in asking questions. So please solve this question and let me try. And what do you answer? Okay, you guys were able to solve this question. Let me see if anyone has done it. No one. Okay, so no problem. I will do it for you. That's not a big issue. Okay. Check if everything is going fine. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so this is basically a very easy question actually. Increased mobile, so you have to match the group A with their transition budget outcomes in group B. So there is increased morbidity. So what you do when is there is increase in death rate. Morbidity is basically death. Okay, so what you do, you try to improve the healthcare. So the correct answer is healthcare. Then there is loss of access. Loss of access. What you do in case of loss of access? Networks and community building. There is an example of loss of access like 1927 Forest Act. British people actually removed the access of tribal people to go into the forest. They declared the forest as conserved forest and they stopped their movement into the forest. So actually these people were very much dependent on forest for their livelihood of fuel wood for different fruits, vegetables, everything. But because of this act, they stopped the movement. So how can you then correct it? Then networks and community rebuilding, you have to really and social disarticulation also. So in that case, what you do, you basically, oh sorry, not this is restoration of community assets. Sorry. Again, green morbidity, healthcare, loss of access like forests were actually uh, uh, scrapped out from them. So you can restore the rights to them. Okay, and social disarticulation, networks and community. Social disarticulation is like socially make some people stand out from a group or something. So that can be narrated through networks and community rebuilding. State true or false. So you have to state whether this statement is true or is this a false statement. So according to cultural keystone species Garibaldi and Turner, so that we also did in question 1 or 2. Culturally salient species that shape a major way the cultural identity of people. Their importance reflecting the fundamental roles these species play in diet, materials, medicine, or spiritual practices. Actually, this is how a cultural keystone species is actually identified. So yeah, this is actually a true statement. Also, we will see that not only like animals, rice, like some flora things like rice. You can see the type of rice here. This different types. So plant rice, cultural keystone species in Philippines. This is one of the keystone species that is very much shaping their dieting patterns. Okay, in the Sarangani upland community, the vital role of rice land in ensuring household food security, survival of the tribal family. So it is very much related with the survival also because this is staple food there. Tribal family undeniable. Such is importance of this land asset that potential loss will affect not only food security but also dire consequences on the tribal culture. So their culture also has this thing also has a potential to harm their culture also. Like if they're not looked into properly. So apart from that, also let's say let's play this very important video. I have put it here so that you guys can have a good uh, view of what cultural keystone species actually feel. They have explained it very beautifully. So try to look into it and try to see what's happening in actually cultural keystone species. So this is a good video from the SWCA environmental consultants. So please look into it. WhatsApp, yeah, got it. So I will mute the episode. So this term cultural keystone species was first actually coined by Robert Pine, Dr. Pine in 1969. So there are these five categories of cultural keystone species: keystone predators, keystone modifiers, keystone prey, keystone mutualist, keystone host. So they are actually saying like if gray wolf is reduced, then what is the population? The prey, so the elk exponentially increase. So this can cause a cascading effect on the plants and animals within the area. Okay, the whole ecosystem will be actually damaged. So they are talking about this alligator. Okay, it's a keystone modifier or ecosystem engineer, which creates or significantly modifies its habitat. So they actually dig deep in the water, so that is actually habitat for. So they are basically acting as a engineer. Blacktail prairie dog, pronghorn. They actually help in penetrating water into the soil. So you can see their actually importance. What important they are playing. When we have fish like salmon, not only salmon, salamander also. I think this video has beautifully explained the concept of culture keystone species. The hummingbird, you guys must have known the hummingbird was smallest bird. So they actually play a notable role in pollination. Actually, very important role in pollination. So you can see how these actually each of these species are actually playing a vital role in the environment. They are actually creating a opportunity for different animals and causing a specific engineering activity into the ecosystem, also providing various important ecosystem services. Okay, so these they are very vital for ecosystems survival or the health of the ecosystem that we talk about. Okay, now moving to the next slide. So if you have any question, please feel free to ask. So yeah, we were here. Now we'll move to the next slide. Right among which among the following gives the definition defines eminent domain. So basically, eminent domain is right of a government or its agent to expropriate private property for public use with the payment of compensation. So basically, eminent domain is something related with right of property. So in India, there is no right of private property. Okay, no right of property does not exist. Government can take your land for public use. So basically, it's saying the right of a government or its agent. So what can be its agent? Some PSU companies or urban local bodies expropriate public property for public use, private property for public use, with payment of compensation. So the government feels that something has to be taken away, some land property for a public use, so they can take it with some payment of compensation. So there are especially rules, guidelines, laws for like payment of compensation also. Now we have to match the group A with group B. So these are basically uh, actually uh, social impact. Okay. So these okay. So this is very much related with like when you have some project on ground. So they something related with the right of property thing. So when you talk of this land acquisition or something, then there has to be some resettlement, economic displacement, compensation. These terms actually come host population. So I will look into each of these terms one by one. So first is resettlement. So what happens when you put, let's say we want to build a dam on some river, okay? So when you build a dam on some river, so there is actually creation of large pool of water, lake type of body, okay? So because of creation of storage reservoir, many of the villages, the people who live nearby river, they get their whole houses, fields, everything gets submerged, so they have to be settled to some other area. Okay, this is done by government or the authority is actually building a dam. So resettlement is basically it is a planned process of relocating people and communities from one place to another. Now another thing is economic displacement. So what happens? Ki earlier people were actually doing farming, horticulture, agriculture, so they were earning some money. Okay, now you displace them and move them to the some new places and you pay them a fair compensation also. Now you give them a home also. What about their economic, their job, their whatever price they are earning? So now they have nothing with them. Earlier they were a very settled community, but now they have nothing. So they have to move out. They have to see look out for opportunities. So they move from one state to another because of this. So there is also this economic displacement. So it is basically loss of income streams or means of livelihood resulting from the land acquisition, obstructed access to resources, land, water, forest resulting from the construction operation of a project and its associated facilities. Then another term is compensation. It is basically provided in exchange of land or something, the property. The payment in cash or kind for an asset or resources, okay, that is acquired or affected by a project at the time the asset needs to be replaced. Now another one is host population. Host population is something, so these uh, affected people will be resettled with some other community or in other villages. So the people in that village, they are host population. Sometimes they help a lot to resettle them. Many times they become hostile because now the resources had to be shared with them also. So, but they need to take a broader view that their resources has to be shared. But the people who are displaced, their resources are actually gone. No resources there. They have to build their everything from scratch. They also have to be kept cared of when you're thinking of something. Okay, so people living in and around area to which people physically display opposite will is resettled, who in turn may be affected by the resettlement. Okay. So correct answer is P4, Q1, R2, S3. Okay. Now we have to state whether this statement right to property is not a fundamental right in India. Yeah, it's true statement. Right to property is not a fundamental. So now the question comes is what is a fundamental right? So fundamental rights are those basic rights, a bare minimum basic rights that are guaranteed by the constitution. So you have freedom of speech. So whenever you want to say something, you can say something. Unless otherwise you cannot you can criticize someone but not uh, like uh, bad word, not say bad words to them, so that has to be taken care of. So like this there are whole lots of rights given guaranteed in the constitution that are fundamental rights. Among the right to property is not a fundamental right. So if government feels that your property can be required for building thing of public usage, so they can take it. Okay, so it's a basically a true statement. Now the right to fair compensation, transparency in land acquisition, rehabilitation, resettlement, 2013 makes provision for. So basically, this Act 2013 Act actually makes provision for social impact assessment. Okay, not climatic, not biophysical, not health impact. Health impact, we saw that India is not having a health impact assessment. Okay, now these two videos are actually very much important video. I found this video explaining very beautifully the concept of social impact and identifying very much relevant concerns with the environmental impact assessment. So we will see these two videos one by one. It's a good video actually on EIA. Not going full screen actually. Some issue with the full screen. Let me be- Yeah, everything is recorded. So you can see the resource and type assessment. Okay, so scoping. So everything they have explained it. Okay, so there has to be assess that scoping has done it correctly or not. So there can be various issues. There can be various perspective also. Key stakeholders involvement is there or not. So they have actually identified the different like issue interaction for natural human environments indicated as insignificant issues. Okay. Okay, so you saw the different like identifying what can be the relevant issues and concern from the beginning of environmental impact assessment. This video is actually very much important video. I find it very interesting. Now we will look into the second video. This is a very good video, measuring your social impact. So there is always a thing like how can we measure our social impact. So they have actually social investment business have actually made a very good video on that. Yeah, everything is stable. It's not going full screen or something. So but so this video will actually make you understand like what constitute a good mission statement. The mission plays critical role, all these things. Okay. Okay, so they are saying actually about the rooftop garden projects. So what can be a basically impact statement or something? They are actually saying about the various. So there has to be three rules like vision, clarity, relevancy. Okay, so yeah, there can be various different statement like how can you measure a social impact? This is also a very good video. There is that social impact is basically long term difference your organization makes to the people or place you work in with various. So social impact is something which has a long term effect. It's not a very short term view you can take for a social impact. So like here you can see they have actually driving force to create positive change in order to create a better fairer world. This is why you can see what is the use of actually a social impact like supporters, funders, service users. They all have a very like nice view when you have something impact socially. So now they are talking about financial and social returns also. Okay, so why there are so many tools and metric technique to simple framework to plan, do, assess, review. This is how you make a social impact. So your stakeholders also play a quite a big role in actually determining a social impact. This is how a social impact is actually measured. So now we will move to the next slide. So these video actually we discussed these videos. These were very good videos actually discussing describing various. These links are actually available in the slide. So if you want, you guys can go through these videos again and ask your questions whenever you want. Now the 10th question is the right to fair compensation, transparency in land acquisition, rehabilitation, and resettlement act makes provision for the following. So if you see this act in passed in 2017, it only makes provision for the prior consent. It doesn't have any provision for payment of compensation or return of unutilized land. So only is the correct answer. Okay. Now, what are key objectives for IFC Performance Standard 2? So there are various performance standards, standard 2, 3, 6, 5, everything. So basically standard 2 is very much concerned with labor. Okay. Now you will be imagining like what is basically a performance standard. So basically when you see the key objectives of IFC performance standard 2, it's basically includes the compliance with relevant employer and labor laws. So labor, this is basically related to labor, so this is correct statement. Safe and healthy working condition also is a correct statement. Fair treatment and non-discrimination. Okay, like you cannot discriminate someone on the basis of bias. Okay, you cannot have a gender bias on a in our organization. You cannot have a bias based on race, someone's race or someone's geography. You cannot actually discriminate them. Okay, worker protection, especially vulnerable groups such as children. Like children cannot be employed in hazardous industry like mines. Okay, children can be employed in if they are less than 12 years, so they can only be employed in their parents' very normal type of businesses. Okay, so all of these are actually correct. So basically, you guys, this question, this also, like we were talking about IFC performance standard 2. Now performance standard 2, 3, 6, 7, you can see how these are related to group B. So before that, actually, what is there in the IFC performance standard 2? So let's have a look at this. So this video is by Rich Flood International. So they have actually they work closely with public and private sectors such as environmental social risk consultant undertaking consultancy services in the various environmental social impact assessment areas or something. So they have actually explained these IFC performance standards. What's happening? So labor and working condition is basically related to the IFC performance standard too. So basically, this they have talked about the objective, scope of performance standard two, and requirement. So I think we can skip this scope of application. So what can be the scope of application of this? So there can be direct workers, contractor workers, and supply chain workers. Supply various materials and provide services for. So they are also covered. So like non-discrimination, equal opportunity, without discrimination against sex, religion, or against disabilities or any other special abilities. Okay, so you cannot discriminate them. The worker manager relationship, a cordial relationship among the different workers. So basically, why this is required? So if these things are not there, then project there can be project jeopardization. Okay, project can be jeopardized. So that workers, contractor workers, supply chain workers. So basically, there are various documents also. So familiarization with these standards are very much necessary actually in this regard. So what can be various requirements like working condition, management of worker relationship, protecting the workforce is one of the requirement. Occupational health and safety. This is also a very important requirement. Occupational health and safety. So you see a lot of things happening in our organization related to occupational health and safety. Workers engaged by third parties, supply chain. Okay, so basically client has to monitor the supply and also why they have to monitor it? Because they have to ensure that the any segment change in supply chain within some weeks cannot be affecting everything. Okay, so they have to identify everything in supply chain is actually a very important part now has become because of interlinking a globalization issue. Okay, these things are actually lot in actually raising performance standard things or something. So now we will move towards the question 12. So now we know that P, the performance standard 2 is basically for labors. So P3, then Q2. Q2 is basically performance standard 3 is for resource efficiency. R4 performance standard 6 is for biodiversity conservation natural process. And S is not 3, S is basically 1. So performance standard 7 is for indigenous people. So the correct answer is answer D. P3, Q2, R4, S1. Now you have to match the terms given in group A with the description in group B. So basically, there are some terms in group A, then you have some terms in group B. So I want you guys to try this question. This is a very good question. So you can, based on whatever has been taught in the lectures, you can also attempt it. So let's attempt it. I will wait for 2 minutes for your answers, and then I will. Basically, the answer is given here, but I want you guys to actually understand what this question is actually. What does these terms actually mean? What is social license, operate, free prior informed consent, social risk? Okay, so then we have these three. I think these three. Then there are two videos. So after this question, there are only two questions left. So we will first see this video, resource efficiency and sustainable development, very important video. Then we'll go to question 14. Then we will see this video, and then we will solve the question. Okay, so please solve this question 13. No one? Okay, then let me do it for you. So social license to operate basically means a level of acceptance or approval of the activities of an organization by stakeholders, especially the local impacted communities. Okay, so this is basically social license to operate. Okay, so people have actually a level of acceptance or approval of the activities. A free prior informed consent. So people before taking any decision, they have a proper uh, information. There is a proper mechanism which has been developed to ensure that the people who are affected have good knowledge and they can self-determine what they want to do. So basically, a procedural mechanism to develop to assist ensuring the right of indigenous people to self-determine. Then there is social risk. So this is basically R2. So the possibility that intervention would create, reinforce, or deepen inequity and or social conflict, and that attitudes or action of key stakeholders may subvert the achievement of development objective and means to achieve or lack ownership among key stakeholders. Okay. So correct answer is answer C. P3 Q1 R2. Okay. So before moving to the next question, I want you guys to. There are two videos which I found very much important. I've taken these from the lecture slides itself. So these videos, these are actually additional learning videos. So I want you guys to see it. And before then we will see one video, then we will solve this question. This is a very important question. You guys can in between solve this question also. So this video is from the United Nations SCAR, and they actually explained the sustainable goals. They have made this video. I think there is a need to bring clarity here. So let's. The quality is good. Start. They are saying when the world leaders adopted 2030 agenda for sustainable development, they recognize the social and economic development depends on sustainable development. Okay, so sustainable management of our planet natural resources. So if you want to have a social and economic development, then you have to have a sustainable management of resources also. So here they are talking about this. What is resource efficiency? What can be termed as a resource efficiency? So resource efficiency is that you have a very limited resources. Okay, so you have to use it very judiciously. You cannot waste them. You have to get the maximum output from the resources. Okay, this is what it is saying. So whatever output you are generating from us, 1 unit of resources, now you have to generate much more than 1 unit. Okay, so more output from less input of resource is what it is needed. So there is a huge opportunity to improve the resource efficiency. So one example I want to give here for resource efficiency, like we see the utilization of gasoline in vehicles. So the efficiency of utilization of gasoline, the energy from gasoline is only 35% or 30%. So we can increase double this efficiency. The coal power plant works at the 40% efficiency. We need to increase the efficiency of resource utilization. We need to get more quantity of electricity from 1 unit of coal. Okay. So every country has to evaluate this resource efficiency, and they have to work towards increasing this resource efficiency. So there will be severe implications because resources will remain underutilized, and because of that, the resources can end, and then those countries have to depend on some other countries. The price will shoot up. So this is what it is saying: ki capacity building, research, platforms for mutual learning. So that will help us in utilizing the resources in much better way actually. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask here. Then we'll move back to question 14. So I am sure that most of you must have solved this question 14 as of now. So there can be different types of EIA, like project specific EIA, programmatic EIA, sectoral EIA, regional EIA. Like project specific EIA is basically those EIA which is like assessing individual roads, new roads. It's basically project specific. So you pass a new road, so then we have programmatic EIA that is basically examining several individual projects that may deliver together or as a package of programs. So like a road is also there. Then there with pathways, the tree planting. So everything is clubbed together. So examining several individual projects that may be delivered together or as a package. So build a road. So there are some benches, park benches, parkings, everything is there. So that is programmatic EIA. Then we have sectoral EIA. In sectoral EIA, all those type of projects which are similar in nature are clubbed together, like uh, strategically assessing all projects of certain types, such as transport infrastructure in a relatively large geographical area. So let's say we are going for roads, then we have going or national highways in a state or something. So that is sectoral EIA. Then we have regional EIA. So whatever is there in the region, we go for EIA for every plant project there. Meaning all the plant project within a specific geographical area is at some national level, is regional EIA. The correct answer is P2, Q1, R4, S3. Correct answer is answer A. So before moving to the last question, we have to see the this last video, which is actually a very much important video. This is by a video by the World Bank. So you can see a lot of videos from them. Some of the videos are actually quite interesting to see and understand also what happened. So this caption is not there. I hope you guys can be able to listen to it. Is Gonzalo Castro de la Mata, Inspection Panel Chairman of the World Bank. Okay, so you could see. So whatever he was saying about this emerging lessons series, involuntary resettlement. Okay. So now we will move towards our last question. That is match the objectives given in Group A with their description in Group B. So basically, objectives Group A is regional EIA, sectoral EIA, which we just saw in the last slide, and then we have Botswana guidance also. So I think you guys should try it out for 2 minutes, then we will see the answers. So you guys tried it out. So let's answer this. So regional EIA is basically to assess the cumulative and other potential effect that of all the project present and future proposed for a geographical area or administrative region. So basically, when you talk about regional, then there has to be some geographic word or geographic area or administrative region. We have sectoral EIA, which is basically to assess the cumulative or other potential effects of all the project present and future proposed for a geographical area or administrative region that might have on the environment. Then we have Botswana guidance that is to achieve the comprehensive technical basis for decision making through integrating environmental impact assessment into the planning process. So what does Botswana guidance says? It says that environmental impact assessment has to be incorporated into the decision making. So it should not be sit in the site and only calculate the impacts. So I think with this session comes to an end. So if you have any queries, please find me on this email ID, or you can also write it on the discussion forum also, or else you can ask it here. So I think if you have any question, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, we will meet on next Tuesday. Thank you. Okay. So thank you again for this wonderful live session. We'll meet on next Tuesday.